Hello, guys. Good evening. Hope you all are doing good today. So, today we are starting our very first session in Python interview series. So, I believe that this video is going to equip you with a lot of knowledge necessary for your technical journey. Okay, so I hope you all sit well and make sure that you learn as much as possible. And if you have been following the other videos from this channel, you'd be well aware that what's our routine. So the routine is grab your coffee, come sit relaxed, and make sure that you chill. And while you chill, make sure your brain is completely focused on what we teach in here. The main reason I say this is because it's going to be technical. Maybe not today because this is our very first session today. But make sure you pay attention so that I would be more than happier. You don't have to learn the 100% of the stuff that I teach you, but I would be more than glad if you could at least get 60 to 70%, and then when you revise later, you're already there. You're ready for the interview. So please sit relaxed, be focused. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the comment section, and I'll make sure I reply to all of them. So, who are we? We are Data Valley, the fastest growing edtech company of 2025. And myself, I'm your trainer today. I'm Franklin. I have almost 3+ years of experience as a data engineer. So, do not think that this Python interview series is just going to be focused for data engineer. Maybe ultimately, yes, we are covering more of that subject, but we also teach from the fundamentals to the advanced level. So you could be a fresher or you could be a seasoned pro. It doesn't matter. I believe these lessons will really help you to brush up your skills. Okay? So no more talking. We'll jump to the video straight away. So the very first question we have here is, why is Python popular for data engineering? Okay? Before getting to know about Python, let's talk about data engineering. What is data engineering? The reason I got this in here, and especially in our first session, is because people sometimes confuse between different roles like data analyst, data engineer, business analyst, data scientist, solutions architect. I understand there could be overlapping roles between these, but primarily talking, there is a major difference between these roles. And any data valiant who is listening to this video, I must be very proud enough in a way that you all know exactly what you're trying for. Okay? If you're a data engineer, I would like to know that you're very sure about what is your role in the company. If your role is data engineer, I want you to be sure that this is what you're going to do in your role when you get placed. Okay? So do not think that why I'm even explaining data engineering, because I want our guys to be top notch in whatever we learn. Okay? Since this is our very first session, I want to jump from basics to your advanced level. So make sure you understand all these concepts well and good. And today it is more or less going to be all technical. Okay? Not technical, it's all going to be theoretical today. So what is data engineering first before we jump to Python? So data engineering is the practice of designing and building systems to collect, store, and analyze large volumes of data. It focuses on pipelines, ETL, processes, data quality, scalability, and performance. So, if you take in a nutshell, what does a data engineer do? So, data engineers, they design and build systems that can collect, store, and analyze large volume of data. And we primarily focus on building pipelines. So we are designing and building systems, right? So what are those systems? What are we designing? We are designing pipelines, right? So we are designing data pipelines, ETL processes. Also at the same time, we are ensuring data quality, scalability, and performance. All right. So I'll say that again. So we as a data engineer, we design and build systems like data pipelines, ETL processes, ensuring data quality, scalability, and performance for large volumes of data. All right. And now, why is Python popular for data engineering? We have understood what does a data engineer do, and why specifically is Python popular amidst other data engineers. The reason is Python offers a rich ecosystem. So what do I mean by ecosystem? So Python offers variety of libraries that are very helpful while working as a data engineer, or in other words, while constructing a pipeline, or while doing data integrity checks. In other words, while you're ensuring data quality. So Python offers default libraries that you can easily make sure you integrate with your existing Python coding. You use these libraries and you can make sure that you get your end result well. So you don't have to, make sure you don't have to worry about constructing different pipelines, how to orchestrate them, how to manipulate data, how to perform crude operations. You don't have to do everything in a hard coded way because you have default libraries that are within Python that is specifically useful for data engineering domain. So rich ecosystems like Pandas, SQL Alchemy, PySpark, Airflow, Boto3, etc. We have a lot of libraries that are useful for data engineering. So for example, if you take Pandas, it is useful for data manipulation. If you take SQL Alchemy, it is useful for your crude operations via Python. Then you have PySpark for your distributed framework, and then you have Airflow to orchestrate your workflow. You have other libraries as well, like Request. You have Boto3. So Boto3 is how you access your AWS cloud. So we will have a look on those libraries, but the ultimate point is that it has rich ecosystem of libraries. And then it provides easy syntax. What do I mean by easy syntax? If you have worked with other programming languages like Java, C, C++, whatever the other languages, it is all about remembering the syntax first. You have to memorize those syntaxes well enough so that you can work on your logics. And the problem with that is to get a single result out, or to get a simple result from your query, you will have to write 3 4 lines of minimal code, which is still longer. Because if you consider Python is very easier for you to write your syntax. And one more good thing about Python is it's more of a human readable language rather than a programming or a technical aspect of language. What do I mean by that? So if you're writing a Java code, you're going to have 3 4 lines, and it is going to have words in a different format, and it's going to make uh, your code understanding in a less way. But if you consider Python, the syntax is very easy, that it can be like a basic English, so you don't have to worry about memorizing a syntax. It doesn't mean that you have to use proper syntax. What I'm trying to tell is, yes, you will have to remember your syntax, but those syntaxes are like how they are in your basic English communication. So it's very easily understandable. And when you understand your syntax, you can make sure that you can draw a broad picture of what the particular code is going to perform. So it offers easy syntax for us. And then Python is great for scripting and automation. Though you have to write a larger number of code for your execution of your requirement, because Python is very easier to write, and they have easier syntax. They provide better readability, and they also provide a lot of automation libraries within them, which helps you to write a better Python code. And also, one key thing about Python is they can easily integrate with cloud and databases. So while talking about why is Python popular for data engineering, I also mentioned a library called Boto 3, right? If you remember. So Boto 3 is a library that you specifically use to interact with your AWS cloud to provision your resources or change, modify. So for any cloud-based activity, you use a library called Boto 3 with Python. So they can easily integrate with cloud and databases. Talking about databases, SQL Alchemy is a well-known library for Python to interact with your SQL databases. All right. So these are the primary reason why Python is very popular for data engineering. And to our next question, what are the core Python libraries used in data engineering? Yes, we did see that it provides rich ecosystem of libraries. So what are the most common or primarily used Python libraries in the domain of data engineering? Okay. So pandas, you all would have heard about the pandas library. In case you're a fresher, know that it is a library offered from Python. And this pandas library is especially useful to provide us with data manipulation activities. So what are the data that you have? So you convert that into a data frame. And once you convert that into a data frame using pandas, you can perform a lot of manipulation of those data frames. Okay, so this is the main benefit of pandas. And then you have SQL Alchemy. So SQL Alchemy, so via Python, you get to connect to your database, and then for your database, you get to write CRUD operations. So CRUD is where you perform, you write, you create, where you read, where you update, where you delete. So those kind of operations can be easily done using SQL Alchemy library in Python. Then we have Scicop G2 and PyODBC. So what are these libraries for? So these libraries, they provide connectors for your Postgres database, and PyODBC provides, they also provide access to your SQL Server databases. So for connections with these databases, you need the libraries Scicop G2 and PyODBC. Then you have request. So request library is useful to access your data via an API. So what do I mean by that? So for example, let's say you have a website running and then you have few data stored up in your server, and now to access it you need an API. So it's usually API has HTTPS protocol, and then you have the web ID, the domain, and the page that you're trying to access. So you have few commands like get, put. So with that command, you get to access your data from these servers. So request is the most common library used to access your data using APIs. And then you have OS, Patlib, and Glob. So these are main libraries used to handle your files. Then you have Airflow and Prefect, which is mainly useful for workflow orchestration. So what do I mean by workflow orchestration? As a data engineer, we design and we develop data pipelines, right? What if in your case, your ETL pipeline or the ETL job must be running on a regular basis? Let's say I run a store and let it be a retail store, okay? Every day the transactions happen and I close my store at 11 o'clock in the night. So once all my transactions are over, I could write an ETL logic where the data is extracted from our POS systems, then it is dumped somewhere like a data lake, and from the data lake, the data is transformed and loaded into data warehouses for further analytics, right? So this is okay if I run it manually for one day. And for next day, it would be very tedious or tough if you are trying to run the ETL job manually. So instead of running those manually, you can use an workflow orchestration tool that runs based on cron operation. So on a regular basis, the time that you set, or not only for a time in a day, but it can also run periodically from for a day, or a periodically once in a week, or once in a month. So it depends, but you can set your cron functionality in a way that you get to run your ETL job on a regular basis or a periodical basis. So that's what I mean by workflow orchestration. So Airflow helps to orchestrate your ETL jobs. And then you have PyArrow and Fast Parquet. So these libraries are especially useful for handling your columnar formats of data. And then you have Dask. So Dask is useful for your scalable data frames. Okay. And then you have Boto 3. So Boto 3 is a specific AWS SDK or a software development kit developed especially for Python to interact with the AWS resources. So these are the core Python libraries we use in data engineering on a daily basis. And to our next question, what is ETL? So ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. What do I mean by extract, transform, and load? As the name suggests, I think you all can try to get a meaning out of its word or the term. Extract, you are extracting something. Transform, you are transforming that extracted one. And load, once you have transformed, you are loading those particulars to the place or the target that is mentioned. So, talking in context to our data engineering, what is an extract? So, extraction is the process where you extract data from a source. What do I mean by source? A source can be anything. It can be a server, it can be an API, it can be a database, it can be a file. So, source can be of different, but the main process here is you're extracting the data. And then what happens in your transform phase? So, in the transform phase, whatever the data you have extracted, you try to enrich it, you try to clean it, and you try to reshape it. So what do I mean by clean in transformation? Let's say you have 10 rows of data, and there are chances that you're going to have some null values in your data. So what do I mean by null value? So null value means that sometimes uh, okay, let's say I have two columns. One takes your customer ID, and the other one takes a name of the customer. We have set the customer ID as a primary key. In that case, it is never going to be null, or the value is never going to be missing. But let's say the other column, the customer name, we haven't set it as primary key, or we haven't given a condition that it shouldn't be null. In that case, let's say a customer has failed to give a name. So that is where the problem comes. So the problem we are dealing right now is null. So null is what does null mean? So null is a missing value. It is not a no value. What do I mean by no value? For example, let's say you have numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. In our case, let's say someone has put their name as 0. Does it mean that the value is null? No, it is not, because null means there is no value at all. 0 still carries a value with it, which means that the value is 0, but there is still a data. But when you're talking about null, there is no data involved, and the data is just missing. So that's where you perform null handling. For example, talking about enriching, let's say your data is coming from a different time zone. Let's say it's from America and you are based out somewhere like in Australia or England. When you get the data, you need to convert those data formats in the format that is preferred within the local region. For example, let's say the date format from America is year, month, and date. And let's say you're in Australia and the date format that is being expected is date, month, and year. In that case, it is the duty of the data engineer to enrich. And in this context, we have to ensure that the format of the data is properly enriched so that our data gives a better readability and better context to the business use case. And then reshape. Reshape For reshape, you have multiple functionalities. Like you can pivot the table. For example, when you pivot the data, it is going to give you a better readability of the data, right? So you're going to get a better insight of the existing data. So you reshape, you have options like pivot, melt. So with those options, you can reshape the data. And then we have load. So what do I mean by load? So as the name suggests, you're loading the data to some target. The target can be anything like a database, it can be data warehouse, it can be data lake, it doesn't matter. But you're loading the data, that is the transform data, to the target that has been given in the business use case. Okay, so ETL stands for extract, transform, load. As a definition, in ETL, you extract the data, you transform the extracted data, and then load the transformed data to a target. And then, what is our fourth question today? What are the basic data structures in Python? Okay, this is a very important thing, and I hope you all pay attention to this because this is the very basic fundamental that you could be a data engineer or you could be planning for some other domain. Even you could be planning for like a Python developer. Don't worry. But this is a very fundamental basic that you need to ensure and be very thorough about it. So the basic data structures in Python are of list, you have tuple, you have set, and then dictionary. But before we talk about these data structures, I have few things to talk about so that you have better understanding of the data structures. All right. So first thing I would like to cover is order. So the definition for order is elements are stored in a defined sequence or order. This order can be based on insertion order, alphabetical order, numerical order, or some other logical order. Okay, let's say you have a sequence of elements or you have a collection of elements. Okay, these elements are going to be stored in a defined sequence. Okay, so let's say I have collection of elements and each have a value of 1, 2, 3, and 4 as their position. So the elements are going to maintain that position in this ordered format. Okay, this order can be based on insertion. What do I mean by insertion? Let's say I have 4 values and now I'm inserting the fifth element. So when the fifth element comes in, the fifth element is going to get a new position within the collection of element. Okay, let's say I'm inserting an element at the front of this collection. So the element that we have inserted is going to get the position number 1, and the other 4 elements that we had, so they are going to have numbers changed as 2, 3, 4, and 5 as their positions, right? So it could be based on insertion order, it could be based on alphabetical order. So alphabetical order is a way how we get our IDs in our classroom, right? So in each of our classroom we get a roll number. So our roll numbers are based on alphabetical order, right? So with alphabetical order, you can ensure that the elements are ordered. And then, not just alphabetical, even based on numerical data, you could get an ordered element. Okay, not necessarily just numerical or alphabetical order, it could follow some other logical order depending on the business use case. Okay, we have seen what is ordered. So what is unordered then? It's just quite opposite. The elements do not have any predefined order, or they do not follow any sequence. The position of an element is not guaranteed or relevant. So when you are trying to access an element, because they are ordered, you get to access the element based on the position. Let's say I'm saying I want the element from the position 2. I'll be getting the element, whatever is in the second position. But in case of unordered, you have no predefined sequence. Hence, it is not going to be easier or nearly impossible for you to access the element because the data structure is unordered. And then you have mutable. What do I mean by mutable? So I believe you all would have watched X-Men. And they are mutants, right? The X-Men are mutants. Why are they called mutants? Because for some reason their DNA is altered, and hence they possess different abilities, right? Similarly, just leave out the abilities. The point I'm trying to make here is, can the collection of sequence be altered or it cannot be altered? So mutation, whatever the data structure that follows mutability, you could alter the element. And whatever the collection of data set that we have that do not have a immutability or where you cannot perform any alteration. So the definition for mutation is allow their contents to be modified in place after creation without creating a new object. So you have a collection of data or the element, and now you are trying to modify it. Yes, now we have made some changes to your existing sequence of element, and now instead of creating a new object, you have just modified the existing object. So you're performing in place modification. Also, talking about the alteration or mutability, it could include operations like adding, removing, or changing elements directly after the existing object in memory. So you're adding a new element or removing a new element, or you're changing the existing element. No matter what, you're just modifying the existing object in the memory. And then what is immutability then? It is just square opposite to mutability. There is not going to be any modification once they are created. So that's what I mean by immutability. And any operation that appears to change an immutable object actually results in a creation of new object with the desired modifications, leaving the original object unchanged. While we discussed about mutability, when you perform an alteration or a change, there is going to be an in-place modification. But when talking about immutability, when you try to perform a modification, first thing, the change is not possible. Or by any chance, there is a modification happening. In that case, instead of the existing sequence of elements, you're going to get a new set of element. So there is not going to be any in-place modification. Rather, you're going to create a new object. Okay, now I will talk about the basic data structures in Python. So I hope you all understood these key terms, which is going to help you understand the data structures. So first data structure that we are going to look in here is list object. So what is a list? So list is an ordered mutable, and they also allow duplicates. So list data structure allows you to have ordered elements. So what do I mean by ordered elements? When the element is ordered, they are going to have a predefined position for their position within the collection. All right. And what do I mean by mutable? Mutability is when you get to change or modify the elements within the collection of elements. Okay. And also list allows duplicates. So what do I mean by duplicates? Let's say I have three different fruits: apple, banana, and cherry. And now I need one more element called as cherry. In that case, a list will allow me to have duplicates. So I'll be having apple, banana, cherry, and a cherry. Okay. Also, always remember that list always is represented using a square bracket. Okay. So I'll make sure I write it here. So represented using square bracket. So a list is always going to have a square bracket. All right. So here, let's see how our basic list looks like. So here, I'm creating a variable called fruits. So it can be any name of your choice. Okay. I have put in the variable as fruits. Then I'm assigning it to the list. So in my case, if I remove all these apple, banana, and cherry, okay, this is still a list, but it is an empty list. So just remember that always your list must be represented using a square bracket. Okay. Now I'm passing the elements. So in case if I'm using numbers, I could have put 1 2 3 without the quotation at the top. So for example, let me create another one for your better understanding. So let's say I'm creating a new list called my list, and the list is represented using square bracket. And then I have okay, so I'm taking up integers. So in case I'm putting in integers, I don't have to use quotation, because those are not strings, those are just integers. So if I'm printing my list, let's see what this gives us. So when I'm printing a list, let's just give a minute because it's just connecting. Okay, it has connected to our kernel. And now when I print a list, it is giving me a list, right? So 1 2 3 4 and a 5. So if I check what is the type, so what is the type of the variable? So it's a list, right? So I'm passing that using a variable. It can be any name. I'm assigning some elements within the square bracket, and once I print it, I'm still getting the list. So when we checked what is this type based on the variable, and my list is a list type. Okay. And in here, because we pass in integers, we didn't use quotations. But while using strings within the list, you have to ensure that you put the quotation. Okay. Okay, I'm creating a new list called fruits with three elements: apple, banana, and cherry, enclosed within a square bracket. And when I print it, I get to see a list with the elements those are existing in our list. And now, for example, I'm just showing you basic functionalities. In our next series, we will cover about all the functionalities that we can use within the Python list. And now when I try to append, okay, what's happening here? So I'm trying to add an element to our existing list. So fruits is our existing list, and I'm trying to append a new element. What do I mean by append? Append is a method where you get to add one element to the last position of your existing list. Okay, let's see, however, list looks first. So this is how a list looks like. So when I try to append now, okay, and now when, because I've appended, you can see that it shows orange. So this was a original list, and to that I've appended an element called orange, and now you can see that your list has modified. So this is what I was talking about, the mutability, right? So mutability is where you get to alter, modify, add or remove an element to the collection of a sequence. And in here I can use indexes along with my variable arguments. Okay, what do I mean by an index? So for example, based on normal positioning, what is the position that you would give to the above list? So you have apple, banana, cherry and orange. What is the normal position you would say? So based on normal positioning, you would say that 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, right? So apple is at 1, banana is at 2, cherry is at 3 and orange is at 4. But Python index, based on Python index, you get to index from 0 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3. So a normal position we call it as 1 to 3 and 4. But with Python indexing, you get to name or position your elements starting from 0. So the position of apple is at 0, the position of banana is 1, the position of cherry is 2, and the position of next element orange is at 3. Okay, and now let me show you another example. Okay, we have already appended orange, so let me not do again. And now if you see here, I'm trying to access the element at third position. So what is the element in our third position? So we have apple, which is 0, banana 1, cherry 2 and orange at 3. So if I'm trying to access this, it shows me orange because this is at the third position. So I'm adding one more element, and now when I print it, you can see that I've added new element called banana. So you can see that how our list is ordered. So this is our original list, apple, banana and cherry, and when I have added new elements, it is just adding up to the next index. So orange follows number 3 and banana gets added to the fourth index. And also you can see that there is an duplicate allocation. So banana is a duplicate and our list could accompany it, right? So we have also seen how we could modify elements, right? Mutability. So initially we had 3 elements, then 4, now we have 5. So that's what I talk about mutability. Okay, and now let's jump to our next data structure, that tuple. What do I mean by tuple? So tuple is ordered as well, as same as list. So list is ordered, right? So you can the list, I mean the elements that you provide within a list is ordered, so you will get to know the position of the element. Similarly for tuple, they follow an ordered, okay, because the elements are ordered, the positions of the elements are going to be maintained in a sequence. But the difference between our list and tuple is it doesn't allow duplicate, say sorry, it doesn't allow to change your elements. So mutability is supported in list, and tuple doesn't support mutability. And one more thing is, tuple, they provide faster and they also use less memory in comparison to the list. So here is a one more thing I failed to tell that. So it is denoted using round brackets. Okay, so how was our list denoted? Our list is denoted using square bracket, and tuple is denoted using round bracket. So list is ordered, they are mutable, and they allow duplicates. And the one difference in comparison to tuple is that tuple are immutable objects. Also, they provide us faster and use less memory than list, and they are denoted using round bracket, and list is denoted using square bracket. Let's say I'm creating a new tuple. Okay, so I'm creating a new tuple called coordinates, and now when I try to print it, the print shows that number 20. So what I'm trying to tell here is, based on Python indexing, so what is the position of this? So you have 10 at 1 and 20 at 1, right? So based on Python indexing, you have 10 at 0 and 20 at index number 1. Now I'm trying to print my coordinates, okay? But I would like to access only the element at the index 1. So what is the element at index 1? 20. So when I print this, you can see that it is giving me 20. So you can see clearly that tuple is ordered, all right? But you will not be able to append, okay? If you try to append, it is going to throw out error, and it also allows duplicates. Let's check it out, okay? So I'm creating a new tuple. Okay, new coordinates 10 comma 20 comma 30 comma 20 comma 10. Okay, and now when I try to print it, what is the expected answer? It's going to allow duplicates, or what do you think? So when I print it, yes, it allows for duplicates. And one of the best use case for tuple is use it when you have only fixed collection of values. All right, and next we have set. What is a set? So set is unordered, whereas tuple and list are ordered, right? In order, you get to maintain the position of an element, and when the element or the object is unordered, you don't get to maintain the position for your elements. Okay, and then it is mutable. What do I mean by mutable? You get to change the elements, and set doesn't allow for duplicates. Shall we have a look of how it works? And one more thing, it is denoted using curly bracket. So it is denoted using curly brackets. All right. So now I'm creating an object called values, unique values. Okay. You can see that I've created a tuple using curly bracket 1, 2, 3, 2, and 1. It is unordered, hence you cannot access or maintain the position of your element. They are mutable, yes, you can alter it, and it doesn't allow for duplicates. And it is denoted using curly brackets. So in here, I've created a unique list, and now the expected output is 1, 2, 3 because it doesn't allow for duplicates. So 1, 2, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, this is the scenario for integers. So how does it work for variables? Let's check it out. So I'm creating a new object, new unique values. Let's see what happens now. You can see that though it is a string, it can only still provide as the non-duplicate values. So 1, 2, 3, 2 is repeating, 1 is repeating, so it has rejected 2 and 1. Similarly, for three strings that we provided, A, S, and A is repeating twice and it has only given us one element, avoiding duplicates. So always try to use sets only in a case where you want to remove duplicates from a list. All right. So jumping to our next one, the dictionary. So dictionary, they are unordered, but from Python 3.7 they are ordered. Also, they are mutable, and also they store the elements as key value pair. So if you see in a list, you could put just the elements, integer, string, boolean, float, any value. But in dictionary, how your data gets stored is it has a key and then a value. What do I mean by key and a value? So in our example here, I'm assigning a new variable called person, and it is always denoted using curly bracket. Okay, do not forget it. Denoted using curly brackets. So if you see here, I'm creating a person variable and then I'm assigning it to an curly bracket, and inside curly bracket I'll put few elements. So what is key here in this context? Key is name and the value is Alice. Age is a key and 30 is the value. Okay, so this is how you assign key value pairs in a dictionary. Okay, and now I'm printing. Okay, first let me print the person. Okay, I'm assigning my variable here, and let's see what it prints. It prints us a dictionary, I believe. Oh, we haven't. Okay. Okay. The error caused out because I didn't assign it because I didn't run it. Okay. So person is having a dictionary, and now when I'm printing this variable person, it is showing me or printing me a list. I mean a dictionary, right? So collection of elements that is in dictionary format. So name is our key and Alice is our value. So age is our key and 30 is our value. Okay, now let's say I'm trying to access a dictionary using the key name. Okay, so if I'm trying to access based on the key name, okay, let's say I'm trying to access it based on age is a key, right? And now it shows that 30 is the age, right? So for this key value, for this key, this is the value, and you get to print your element based on the key. Okay, so age is a key and then you have got 30. So what are the key differences? We have seen four basic functionalities: ordered, unordered, mutable, immutable, and then list. So list is ordered, they are mutable, and it doesn't allow duplicates. And then we saw about tuples, which is ordered and it allows duplicates, but the only difference is it is immutable. And then you have set. So set is unordered and it is mutable and it doesn't allow for duplicates. Dictionary, they are ordered from the version 3.7 of Python. They are mutable. They store the element using key value pair. Talking about how do you show the difference between or How do you create a list, dictionary, set, and a tuple? It's usually defined using varieties of bracket. For a list, you use a square bracket. For a tuple, you use a round bracket. So it is a square bracket. For tuple, I've used round bracket. For set, I've used curly bracket. And it is the same with the dictionary as well. So you use curly brackets. But the data type within dictionary is key and a value. Okay, key, and then you put a semicolon and then the value. All right. So jumping to our fifth question, how do you read a CSV file? Okay. So I've already told you that we use different libraries to better our functionality using Python. All right. So today, see, don't worry about it. Today we are not discussing any technical aspect. This is just to give you an a head start, or a I want your first step to be easy rather than making it too complicated on day one. I want you all to come back and enjoy the further sessions. So I'm just keeping it minimal today. Just remember how we do it, or try to remember the syntax. So that would be more than fine. Don't try to memorize anything more than that. Okay. So first I'm importing the library. All right. I'm importing the library. Import pandas as PD. So PD is any kind of alias that you can provide. I'm using PD because that is what the industry standard is, and it's quite easier. You don't want to mention pandas every time, right? So import pandas. So instead of using alias, you can put pandas dot read CSV, and it is you're going to input 6 letters. And you working as a data engineer or a Python developer, you want to make your life easier. So we are using alias as PD. So first thing, so I'm assigning a alias or an variable. So for the variable df, I'm trying to read a CSV file. So to read a CSV file using pandas, you import a method called read CSV. Okay, so read CSV is a function within pandas which you use to read a CSV file. Okay, I just write it down so that you can find it easier. To read CSV files. I hope this is very clear. So we're using read CSV to read CSV file. So let's see how I'm doing it. I've assigned a variable, and then I'm using dot read CSV function, and in here I'm assigning the path to the location of my data. Okay, so in here, so this is my file path, and then I'm assigning the separator that is used within this. So for a CSV file, the files are separated used on comma, right? So that is our basic understanding. But there are different scenarios where the data is delimited using tab, or just a space, or a semicolon. So it depends on your data set. So for my CSV files, the separator here is a comma. Okay, so that's why I mentioned comma. And I've used a parameter sep. So sep is equal to separator, which says that how I have separated each of my element. So this is our common syntax. Okay, syntax I put it here. File path, then you define your separator, then optionally you also can define header as well. So you can put maybe true. Okay, so this is just the syntax. Okay, so okay, let me read it now. Okay, I've read it. So this is how you display your data set. Okay, so I use display. So when I try to print my CSV file, you can see that customer ID, first name, last name, email, region, join date. So these are my headers, and then you can see that this is the data set. All right, so this is my CSV file, and this is how I read it. So there are key points that you must remember for today. So there are different parameters that we use. So I've already mentioned it. So we have separator, so mentioned using sep. So in the sep you get to provide what kind of separation is being used, or delimiter you have used between each element. So most commonly it is just comma. So by default, even if you don't mention sep, it is just an optional parameter. Okay, so it's not necessary. Let me mention it. Even header is optional. Okay, so separator by default it takes comma, but also you can provide other delimiters as well. And then you have header. So in header it is still optional, where you get to mention that do you need your existing data set with headers. So whatever the headings that we have in our CSV file, so if you put header as 1, that means true, and if you put header as 0, it is false. So you're going to reject all the headers from the CSV. So while you create a data frame, you get to assign do you need to use headers or not. Then you have d type, which means that type of columns. So for the columns you can mention like your data type, like is that an integer, is it a string, is it a date format, or is that a float, is that a boolean. So you get to define the name for your columns. All right, so that is all for today. This is our very first session, and I hope we all learned as much as possible today. And I believe that this session was really helpful for you. So once this session is over, soon I'll be updating all these the whatever we have used it to our GitHub. So once I've updated those to our GitHub, you can access it later. All right, so I'm ending up this session for today. So feel free to check our website, which is Data Valley. So we have our centers across India, and we are spread across the globe as well. So as you can see here, we have our headquarters in Hyderabad. So we have 3 branches, and we have just started our 4th branch in another place in Hyderabad as well. And our headquarters is based in US and United Kingdom, and also we have one more headquarters in Dubai as well. So please feel free to check our website, and do drop a like here. And if you have any questions, do mention that in your comment section. Feel free to share it with your fellow data engineers or any other Python developers. So we are just covering up all the basics. So this will be very helpful. This is kind of an interview based learning. So do click on the bell button as well, so that you don't miss on our updates. So that's it all for today. And this is Franklin signing off. Until next time, good luck to you all. Make sure you revise all these lessons, so that when you come to our next session, you're well enough prepared and you're good to go. I have got plenty of questions ready for you, so don't miss out on the future videos. So you all have a good day. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.